And like, I think about my granny and growing up on, I mean, our granny, but your great granny, growing up on the farm, right? They were, they had a ranch, but like, even before you were born, I think even before I was born, they owned a rodeo.
Yeah.
So they did, all of that. We grew up on horses. I just remember so many amazing times on the farm,
Yeah, I do. I remember a lot of good times there because I would get dropped off for what I think was the whole summer, and stay there with Granny Rosella and Grandpa Dave. But I was young and I hated to sleep by myself. So they would make a bed in between their beds because they slept in separate beds. They would make a bed for me on the floor. And so I could, stay there comfortably.
You were so coddled. Like, none of us got to do that. You were just the baby of the family. So you got all that. I remember that too. Like, you being kind of carted around by Grandpa Dave.
Oh,
yeah. That was funny.
It was. But I mean, it's like, I think it's funny now, but I always joke around that I think I snuck into Granny Carol and Grandpa Con's room until I was like 14 because I was scared. And I would like open the door and I'd be like, "Are you up?" And like, if she didn't say anything, I'd like army crawl under their bed.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be so scary. I'd be terrified if I woke up and there was a little kid in my room.
They were so used
let alone
to it.
A little kid being scared. Yeah, I guess, but
well, because I'd get in trouble. If she heard me, she'd be like, "Go back to bed," right? And so if she didn't, I'd be like, "Yes." Yeah, it was terrible.
Well, I remember on the farm, like that was the place, right? We would always go, with our friends or whatever. It was like get out to Granny and Gramps' house, and they lived out in the country, but it was maybe only 10 miles, 10 kilometers from our house.
Yeah.
And certainly too far to just like walk, but we, if you could catch a ride, or when I was 16, I had a, dumpy old car, but I would go out there as a teenager. And I remember going out there with my friends, and Grandpa had been boarding some thoroughbreds. He would board horses as well as have his own.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was doing, and probably we shouldn't have been trying to ride other people's horses, but at the time I didn't really realize that.
No.
And I remember just being so cocky that I knew, because we all knew how to ride.
Yeah.
Like that was just a thing in our family. I'll find it, but we have a picture of my brother, sister, and I on horses when we're like 4 or 5 years old. We were little. And we were never allowed to ride with a saddle.
No.
It was always without a saddle until you were much older, if at all.
Yeah,
right?
And I think like oftentimes it was like a halter and a rope. Like you didn't get any luxuries.
Oh yeah, just one side on the rope. No, you just figured it out. And it was normal for us to sort of find our favorite horse and coax it up to the fence and climb up on the fence and get on the horse. Right? It was just the way it went. And there weren't really rules. Like we all were taught how to be safe around horses really early. So us going off in the pasture as a little herd of children was never go. Just do your thing. But this time I was probably old enough to know better. And I brought these friends out and I was showing off. I was just cocky as hell. And I go and grab one of these thoroughbreds or coax it up to the fence, and I hop on, and
you're going.
I'm it, look at me. Yeah. And I decide like I'm going to gallop on this horse again, not something that would be unusual, but I had zero like understanding of how fast a thoroughbred can go. I had no idea. And I'm wearing like little short shorts and probably jelly shoes, right, in the 80s. And like, nothing. And no saddle. You're not even a halter or rope. Yeah. I was just on that horse and I thought, how fast can it go? Well, I saw my life flash before my eyes in slow motion as I'm clinging like a koala bear to the horse's neck. and slowly rotating and sliding off of it as it's going, what I think is full speed.
Yeah, it's probably
and
trotting.
until I'm literally hanging or off its neck, and it was do or die at that point. Like, sooner or later, this horse has to stop, but I can't hang on anymore. And I'm beyond trying to save face for my friends. And I literally try to, like, push myself away from the horse as I launch and, like, triple roll.
Yeah.
And I got some scrapes and I was so embarrassed, but it taught me a good lesson to be a bit more careful.
Yeah, I know. I think because we had been around horses for so long, we just, I was a trick rider myself. I'd hop on those suckers and be like, woo! I have no idea, but.
Well, and I don't know if you know this, but Granny Rosella was a trick rider when she was young. She was a barrel racer later, but there are pictures somewhere, and I bet you some of our cousins and people have them, but of her, like, we would stand on the horses, and like, Granny taught us that stuff, get up and...
Well, I think that's why when I was older, I got into vaulting, like the gymnastics on horseback. And I did that for many years.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. We got to wear these really nice spandex onesies.
There's pictures.
And it was like a teal green, but like not even a nice teal green. And I remember there was like one boy on our group. It was bad.
Lucky guy. Oh.
But it was awesome. It was like one of the best times ever. Like, we went and did competitions and all sorts of stuff. And I learned how to stand and cartwheel and flip off the back of a horse. It was awesome.
Oh, I didn't realize you did all that.
Yep, I got some pictures. But I don't need to pull out the leotard.
We'd like you to model it for us.
Probably it'll fit on my hand.
Yeah. Granny and Grandpa's, like, being at the farm, that was always the way it was. Mm-hmm. It was just always the way it was. And walking into the kitchen, you never knew who would be there, but it would always be there. Coffee pot was always on. There was always some sort of food cooking, food on the table.
Oh,
like,
or
nobody went without.
Frying cracklings for Grandpa Dave, so you could just smell that grease.
Yeah, baking buns. Yeah. My favorite, though, was Granny. Like, Granny was a really good cook, but sometimes like, there was a few, she was frugal, let's just say that. And I learned that if you came in the house and said, Granny, what's for dinner? And if she said meat, you might not want to eat it. Because you know what that meat was, right? And it did not look like any meat that I could recognize. So, I miss her borscht. Her borscht was so good. I know. Her Kampfborscht, so good.
And one time...
And Kampfborscht and Sommerborscht.
It was, like, I think my mom knows how to make it, but it just wouldn't be the same anyhow. But one time...
it doesn't have meat in it.
I know. Ham. I think one time we went to Christopher Lake when they had the their trailer there. I think it was there. And Granny invited me over for borscht, and I was so excited because I hadn't had it in forever. And of course, we were taught that when somebody offers you something, you eat it. And she offered me borscht, and I was like, yeah. So I started eating it, and I look in the bowl, and there's all these dead fruit flies. And here she mustn't have washed the dill. And they were just floating in this bowl of soup.
Like aphids or something?
Yeah, like it was just, it was on the... So anyhow, but I ate it because I didn't want to get in trouble.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That reminds me of a time that when I was visiting Trevor's grandma, and she lived on a farm. She also a Mennonite woman. And I was dating him. And so, you're going out there for Sunday dinner, all the extended families there. You want to fit in,
Yeah.
And you just don't want to make a scene or anything. And his grandma, she was just the most wonderful lady. She was like 4 foot nothing or 3.5 feet.
Yeah.
She was a tiny little lady. And she was so kind. And so I'm sitting at the table, and I don't remember what we were eating, but I took the pepper jar and I'm but there's pepper in there.
Yeah.
Like, you can see it, but it's not coming out. And I'm like trying to get it out. And I take a closer look, and it's not pepper. It's like dead beetles in there.
How was that?
It was so horrifying, because what are you gonna do? You're not gonna scream at his grandma and be like, what the hell, there's beetles in this? Like,
where did that come from?
It was I mean,
Old.
Some little eggs got laid in there.
Gross.
And then they hatched, and then they lived off. I don't know.
That's.
I mean, have thought about it too much in this 10 seconds that I talked about it. But